Welcome back.
We are back, baby!
The NHL season is upon us, which means two things. One, the preseason is currently underway, which is why I'm kind of glad I'm making these predictions a little bit later than I probably would have, but injuries have greatly justified some of the differences that I've already made since I started writing down my predictions weeks ago. But I'm going to start with the Pacific Division again because that's the division I'm the most familiar with. And I'm gonna go 8th to 1st again like I did last year. Really, 7th and 8th, I can see flip-flopping. But I'm gonna go with in 8th Anaheim because, I mean, they're still in rebuild mode and I don't really think that they're going to try. I really don't know what's going on with Anaheim. But, down here for the first time in a while at least, I'm gonna have the Calgary Flames in 7th. And I know what you're thinking. Celebrini just got injured. San Jose could still, but San Jose is in 6th. Like they're all just clumped together in a race towards the bottom. The reason I have San Jose up is because their young guys look really, really solid. And although they could try to get another lottery pick since they had Celebrini, it's a lottery, right? And so I see them still having a little bit more momentum, especially with their youth, to be able to carry that towards being a little bit better. I really like Mackenzie Weegar. I don't know what's going on with you. Like, there's just so many question marks around Calgary, and they kind of signed people in the offseason, but I wasn't impressed with Anthony Mantha. Maybe in a bigger role in Calgary, he'll do better there, which, hey, I hope Calgary is able to recover from this faster than I think it will, because I kind of like them. They're one of my best friend's favorite teams. It is his favorite team. So I want them to do well for him and their family, but like, I just don't see it. And so in 5th, I had Seattle. The reason I have Seattle here is because as much as I want them to kind of return to relevancy and they have that Winter Classic game over us for all of time, I just don't see it like Chandler Stevenson and adding Brandon Montour, I think are going to be great additions for them, but I don't see them surpassing the top 4, maybe 4th, who I have LA, because they got rid of Dubois, sure, and they have a lot of solid pieces, but they lost Matt Roy and Doughty. Ooh, Doughty being out for the season, like LA could actually probably drop to 5th. I'm changing that right now. Seattle 4th, LA 5th. With Doughty out, he's not going to be out for too long because it was just a broken bone instead of, you know, high ankle sprain, which will take longer and is less predictable about recovery times. But nope, I'm swapping that right here. Seattle 4th, LA 5th. In 3rd, and I don't know, it's literally impossible for me to get rid of my bias with this. But I don't think it is, and I'm gonna go with Vancouver. And I like the Canucks. They are my 2nd favorite team. I used to live in Vancouver. It's a vast drop off between 1 and 2, but they're still 2. Pettersson, Hughes, GT Miller, I guess. The big question mark for me is the health of their goalies. And without Demko and potentially Seelovs, and they lost Yuri Patera to waivers, like, I just don't know what... They signed another goalie. Who was it? Lankinen. Who, like, he's good, you know? He posted a .905 last year in 24 games for the Predators. Like, that was, they have a good defense, but like, that's solid numbers, especially right now in the league for goaltending. And so if he's gonna roll with, like, I hope Demko is able to recover and Seelovs as well, but with their health being as unknown as it is, I have to have them in 3rd. But I still have them in the playoffs, and they're going to go up against in the 1st round, if my predictions are correct, the Vegas Golden Knights. I'm going to start with 1 with Edmonton because I just think they went deep in the playoffs, and they've got a lot of recovering to do for Kane, and Skinner's still a bit of a question mark. Like, he did well in the last 2 rounds, but like, I don't know. They had a magnificent offseason, adding Skinner and Arvidsson, and just like, they lost McLeod, and I just think Edmonton's gonna win the division, as do most people in the hockey realm. And I think Vegas getting 2nd over Vancouver simply because Vancouver's goalie health, and Vegas in the preseason specifically, which, you know, take with a grain of salt, have interesting roster decisions to make, and I don't know what's going to happen. Obviously, our goalie situation is also kind of up in the air, but Vegas's defense and defensive structure underneath Cassidy I like more with the unpredictability and goaltending. And so I'm going to go with Vegas. Even though Vancouver won the division last year, I think Vegas is going to be second, Vancouver third, Edmonton the top. Which means I have the Edmonton Oilers winning their division for the first time since 1986-87. Incredible stat, to be completely honest, that they haven't won in that long, and yet they've been like good at the bookends of those time periods. But Connor McDavid has never won his division with Leon Draisaitl. That's insane. Following my method of last year, I'm going to go to the Metro, and in 8th, I have the Columbus Blue Jackets. I am going to be rooting for them. I think all of us are going to be in some level rooting for them this year and celebrating their wins. I want the best for them with their given situation, and so hopefully they're able to find a way to rebuild and continue to improve their team and ride positive momentum starting from this year onward. But I do have them in 8th, and in 7th I'm gonna go Flyers. I know they were in that tight race last year at the end, but Michkov is a complete unknown, and no idea. Their goalie situation specifically is just a crapshoot. Like, just unbelievable. In 6th, I'm gonna go with the Isles. This team, also a wild card, I could see them finishing 3rd, or like anywhere in that spectrum because of their goalies, Varlamov and Sorokin being who they are. Like, they could just pop off and have an immensely good season. They didn't have that many additions in the offseason, and so I just think that they're gonna be 6th. In 5th, I have the Pittsburgh Penguins. Crosby, almost by himself, willed that team to a playoff spot. They added Cody Glass, they lost Riley Smith. Puljujarvi and Bunting was a good addition for them with that trade with Gensel last year. So I just think that, man, it is tough predicting hockey, but I'm gonna have Pittsburgh in 5th. In 4th, I have the Washington Capitals. I like their auditions in defense with Chychrun and Roy. Logan Thompson is a sneaky get for them. I think that he's gonna, well, him and Lindgren is a pretty good tandem, especially with what Lindgren was able to do last year. I think that they're going to be a little bit more comfortable in making a push towards the playoffs this year than they were last. But I don't know what that looks like for them, because obviously Ovi, it's really mostly about him chasing the record instead of finding success. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. And they added Dubois, but maybe the power of cap friendly will be able to help them, but I have them in 4th. In 3rd, I'm gonna have the New Jersey Devils. I think that they could just straight up win the division with better health from Dougie Hamilton and Jack Hughes compared to last year, but I just don't know if the jump for them is going to be able to be as high as that, and so hedging my bets a little bit, putting them in 3rd. And 2nd, I have the Carolina Hurricanes, which means in 1st I have the New York Rangers, and I just think it'll take the Canes a little bit more to get going with the additions to their defense and subtractions. Like, they just changed on their roster, and they kept Nietzsche's and signed Jarvis to really, I like that deal a lot for the team. The question for them is going to be in goal, but obviously if they can win with a Zamboni driver that works for the other team, they can probably win with anybody. So I have them in 2nd, and in 1st, the Rangers. They just, Lafreniere is really starting to come into his own, and Empire State Building, and just like, they are a fun team that I think can go far this year. Hopping back over to the Central. The Central was hard for me because a lot of their teams, I think, made positive jumps and additions to their game. I have an 8th Chicago still. I don't know, the gap between them and the teams above them is going to be smaller than last year. Bedard is probably going to not have a sophomore slump. They have Brossoit in net, and he is fantastic, at least in small doses, so we'll see what he can do with the full schedule. But they also have Martinez, Maroon, Bertuzzi, Teravainen. I can see them doing better than this, but I'm going to have them in 8th for now. And in 7th, I have St. Louis. I think that they added Holloway and Broberg through the offer sheets, and I think Jake Neighbors is going to probably do well for them. I think this team is also just going to get better, and we'll see what happens with them. Bennington put up really solid numbers last year. I think that St. Louis is going to surprise people with some of the wins that they're going to steal from upper teams, but I still have them in 7th. In 6th, I'm going to have the Minnesota Wild, who could be much lower than this. And this is the last year of their cap penalties with the Parise and Suter buyouts, and so they're going to have a lot to spend next year, with the cap also going up another like $4 or $5 million. Fleury's farewell tour, probably. But they have 3 goalies that they could be running between Fleury, Gustafsson, and Wallstedt. And I think Boldy is a phenomenal player. Kaprizov, obviously. They've got a really solid group. I just don't know if it's going to be... like, I just think they ride out this final wave of the buyouts and then are able to pop off next season with additions, probably. But in 5th, I went back and forth. I'm putting Winnipeg in 5th. I don't get me wrong. They are a solid team, and they have Hellebuck, who can just steal a season. Probably not a first round, as we saw last year, but they can do great things. I just think they're going to probably fall off a little bit. And I had to make some decisions, and I put the Utah Hockey Club, probably Yetis, in 4th. I think the hype around that team and the way that the fans are going to come in rocking, especially if they're doing well, which they're good chances because they have a lot of good young players. Clayton Keller, Logan Cooley, Josh Doan, Matthias Michelli, they just have a really solid young group that can do a lot of crazy things, and if they don't have the distraction of the whole arena moving and stuff, like, I just think that they could do really, really amazing things and make the playoffs this year, which would be, I think, what's best for the hockey market in Utah. 3rd, I do have the Colorado Avalanche. And they're getting Landeskog back probably through this season. Georgiev, I don't know. And they were a one-line team last year. Nathan McKinnon, Rantanen, like one heck of a top just unit. Like, they could be the first NHL All-Star team with Makar and Taves. Incredible, incredible top-end talent. Nope. They're going 2nd. In 3rd, I'm going to have the Nashville Predators. The additions of Stamkos, Marchessault, Brady Shea, incredible. Losing Askarov, who I would have thought could have been the backup, not great, but they have Saros, so Saros is able to be Saros. I see them doing amazing things. They have Ryan O'Reilly. Like, they have a really solid group. A lot of the new additions I think might take a little bit of time to get used to in the system and in the whole process of being together on the team, even though Stamkos and Marchessault have worked together previously on the Lightning. I just think it'll take them a little bit longer to get used to one another, but they could pop off, and I'm going to put them in 3rd, which means winning the Central Division. I have the Dallas Stars. Incredible team. They have a lot of young talent that is just really, really solid, and if Otter can put up performances like he did last season, I do not see any reason why they don't win the division again. And moving on to the Atlantic, which should be the most divisive division about who's going to actually come out where. In 8th, I'm going to have the Montreal Canadiens again. Laine getting injured, not good. Ryan Bacher getting injured and being out for 5-6 months because he got surgery, not good. Kirby Dach just got cross-checked in the face last game, which is not allowed, but nothing. Anyway, Montreal! I could see them taking a step, but at the same time, I'm having them in 8th. And in 7th, I'm going to have the Ottawa Senators because they continuously say, we finally got a goalie. And they got Linus Ullmark, who should be the answer to that. Stützle, Tkachuk, Brady, Amadio, Cousins, David Perron. Sneaky addition there. I just don't know about the rest of their lineup. Having Shane Pinto back for half the season, more than last year, is going to be good for them too. I just have them in 7th. In 6th, I have the Buffalo Sabres. They totally could take a step. Their defense is insane between Dahlin, Powers, Byram. Like, it's just insane. Benson's, Cousins, they added McLeod, Jack Quinn, and they still have Thompson, Tuck. Like, I just don't know if that's enough. It really depends on if UPL becomes that bona fide starter for them or Devin Levi. But I just I put my trust in them last year and they let me down, and until proven otherwise, I'm gonna still have them missing the playoffs because I will not fall for that again. In 5th, I have the Detroit Red Wings. I do think that they take a step this year. They have an insane amount of goalies in their pool. One of them's got to stick, right? And they added Tarasenko, so I'm gonna have them taking a step and being in 5th, especially with like Sider and Raymond. If they're able to take steps, I see them flirting with a playoff spot better than they have in the last decade. In 4th, I have the Boston Bruins. They added DeBrusk and Lindholm, but like, I don't know. They added Zadorov and Lindholm for quite the pretty penny, if you ask me, but I just don't know if that'll be enough. Zadorov was huge for Vancouver. Lindholm, not as much, and so it'll just be interesting to see if he actually steps up his game in Boston compared to what he was able to do in Vancouver. But I like the additions that Tampa Bay made more, so that's why I have them in 3rd with the addition of Jake Gensel. They lost Sergachev, which is a pretty heavy blow, but they brought back Ryan McDonough. Okay. and the big one of Stamkos, but Victor Hedman is still Victor Hedman. If Vasi can put together some of his game, he's only, what, 29? 30. He just turned 30 in July. Well, July. Kucherov, Point, Atkinson, Sorelli, like they just have such a good I don't see how they don't get 3rd. We'll see. In 2nd, I have the Florida Panthers, and hear me out on this. I had this as well last season, and Florida was definitely better than that. They proved that after a deep playoff run, they could still perform incredibly in the regular season. However, after 2 straight playoff deep runs, I think that they're going to come out at the beginning of the season absolutely rocking, and then that hangover's finally going to hit, and they're probably going to drop a little bit, but they're still going to do fantastic things, and like they, for all intents and purposes, can still go in another deep playoff run and make it back to the finals. They did really well in the offseason, all things considered. And even though I don't know how this is going to go, I have, by default, the Toronto Maple Leafs in 1st in the Atlantic. They're a very polarizing team, that one, because I am not a Toronto Maple Leafs fan at all. They kept Marner. Okay, that Tanev deal was a little bit expensive, but they have something to prove, and obviously they can't do it until the postseason, but they are a really good regular season team. I think they're going to put up a lot of points, especially if they can avoid injuries and stuff, but I just think that they're going to be less beat up because of less games in the June area of the hockey schedule, and can just keep that ball rolling, and we'll just have to see if they can keep it rolling past then. But I'm also going to predict the playoff teams because I think it's a little weird. Obviously have the top 3 from each division, so Edmonton, Vancouver, Vegas, Dallas, Colorado, Nashville, Rangers, Canes, and Devils, and then Toronto, Florida, Tampa. But really picking the other 4 teams is kind of nuts, because as much as I've been going back and forth, I really couldn't pick that many different teams. And so I'm gonna have to say that Utah and Winnipeg make it from the Central. So only 3 teams from the Pacific. And then I could see it being Boston and Detroit, but I'm gonna go Boston and Washington. I just like the additions on defense that Washington made, and so I'm gonna have 4 from each in the East, and then 5 Central, 3 Pacific. But that'll be fun to see how wrong I am at the end of the season. I'm so excited for hockey to be back. This is going to be fantastic. I'm going to be so exhausted because watching a West Coast team on the East Coast sucks. But that's going to be my predictions for the 2024-25 NHL seasons. That's going to be it for today's nightly review. Thank you so much for watching, and have a good night.